Daredevil is getting born again very soon on March 4th, 2025. This is the big return of the character, and though he appeared in Spider-Man No Way Home, She-Hulk, and Echo, this is the first time Matthew Murdock is a lead character since the third season of Marvel and Netflix's Daredevil in 2018. That's right, it has been 7 years since the show's cancellation. With the original series and the Defender saga officially confirmed to be canon to the MCU continuity, the ever-evolving timeline of the MCU, and so many years between Season 3 and Born Again, this new series will act as a fresh start and a soft reboot for the character, keeping everything that came before, however going in new directions for the new and returning audiences. And because of that, we get to the point of this video. Foggy Nelson and Karen Page are going to die. Let's talk about it. For a quick message before we begin, make sure you subscribe to the channel for much more Daredevil and MCU content. We have a lot to look forward to with these next upcoming episodes, meaning we'll have a lot to talk about right here, so you won't want to miss it. To say Foggy and Karen are going to die in Daredevil Born Again may seem like a bold claim, however I do think it's the way the showrunner and Marvel are planning on going, and there's plenty of evidence to back this up. Before I even get into the continuity and the fact this show is continuing an old story in new ways, let's first talk about what this show was originally going to be like before the reshoots. It was confirmed very early on that Foggy Nelson and Karen Page were not going to have any kind of role in this new show besides a cameo. Charlie Cox, who portrays Daredevil, even came out and said this, confirming Foggy's actor, Eldon Henson, had merely a brief cameo that was supposed to remind the viewers of the Netflix series, and that would have been it. It was never said if Karen Page would also appear in a cameo role, but as far as we know, she wasn't originally involved either. Marvel Studios began production of the episodes, quite a while into actually shooting them before ultimately scrapping everything and returning to the drawing board to start over fresh. Rumors suggested that Foggy and Karen would have died off screen in between the time we have last seen them, explaining why they didn't have any kind of a role. Following their deaths, Nelson, Murdock, and Page went defunct, while Matt went on to open his new law firm, Murdock and Associates. The rumors went on to say that after losing the two people closest to him, he quit being Daredevil. We can also confirm that to be on the true side since Matt wasn't originally going to suit up as Daredevil until at least 4 episodes into the show. But this version was scrapped for the most part. It is not happening. During the reshoots, we saw Matt, Foggy, and Karen, and also saw the exterior of Nelson, Murdock, and Page. Yet even still, their roles are heavily limited, and that's because they will die early on. What we do know is that early in this first season, Benjamin Poindexter, Bullseye, will return, and I speculate that will be in the first episode. Last seen receiving spinal surgery after being paralyzed in his fight against Daredevil and Wilson Fisk, he's coming back with a new costume to finish what was started. Daredevil and Bullseye will square off at Josie's bar, where Foggy and Karen are. They will be caught in the crossfire, as seen in behind-the-scenes set photos, and I do think that this is the battle that will end their lives. A villain from the past resurfaces unexpectedly, kills 2 beloved and important characters, and the rest of the series plays out thanks to this monumental event in Matt's life. Wilson Bethel, who plays Bullseye, also gave out some information that allows me to build on my theory even more. Giving an interview, Bethel said that Daredevil Born Again takes place 5 years after the events of Daredevil Season 3. Since the original series is canon and Season 3 took place in late 2017 to early 2018, 5 years after that would place it in around 2023. 2023 is also the year everyone who snapped returned to existence. In Echo Episode 1, we got confirmation both Matthew Murdock and Wilson Fisk survived the snap, and Matt continued operating as Daredevil during that 5-year time period. As of now, we are unsure if Foggy and Karen blipped or also remained. I don't see the show picking up during the era of Half-of-Life Missing, so we'll say things start in 2023. In Spider-Man Far From Home, Peter's identity is exposed to the world in the summer of 2024. Spider-Man No Way Home then sees Matthew Murdock as the defense attorney of Peter Parker, and because he's a really good lawyer, Peter's charges were dropped. again also in the late summer of 2024. She-Hulk Attorney at Law features Matt Murdock now in California, where criminal events have him suit up as Daredevil, even teaming up and having a brief fling with Jennifer Walters' She-Hulk in August of 2025. So right away at this point in the timeline, it's been nearly 2 years since the blip, everyone's returned. With Captain America Brave New World, the MCU is as far in the timeline as April 2027. Daredevil Born Again has to fit in there somewhere, and the timeline we're building shapes up to prove why the show will take place across different years, and why the death of Foggy and Karen is important to it. Here's our theoretical timeline so far, and how I think the events of Daredevil Born Again will play out in the greater MCU timeline. Sometime immediately after the blip, from October to December 2023, Benjamin Poindexter returns as Bullseye, catching Matt off guard and forcing him into a brawl which takes place at Josie's. During the fight, Foggy and Karen are killed by Dex, and whatever happens next takes place. I do think Matt will put a severe beating on him, and something will happen to most likely end the character of Bullseye here. But this event overall sees Matt retire as the Daredevil persona and focus on himself and his career. With Wilson Fisk a free man and crime back on the rise come the spring of 2025, Matt is once again Daredevil, his suits made by Luke Jacobson in California. Concurrently in May 2025, the events of Echo are taking place with Wilson Fisk, and he ultimately decides to run for mayor of New York City. Matt and Jennifer are last seen together in what would be September 2025. Wilson Fisk would be campaigning at this point in time, and when Matt returns to Hell's Kitchen, this is when the rest of Daredevil Born Again takes place. So we would see post-blip Matt, Foggy, Karen, their deaths, Matt on his own, the previous MCU projects we see him in taking place, and then the events of the new series. Therefore, we have concrete evidence the show is most likely taking place in 2025 for the most part. And if Wilson Bethel was correct in saying it also takes place 5 years after what we've last seen of all the characters, that would be 2023. We begin in 2023, have the big setup, the characters' deaths, and a new version of Matthew Murdock. Some time goes by, the other MCU projects which featured him play out, and then we return to Daredevil Born Again in 2025. Now I won't get into what the future of the MCU timeline could be because we have Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars coming up, and who knows, that might just feature Matthew for all I know. Now let's talk about the narrative reasons behind these two deaths. As mentioned before, losing them would result in a new internal conflict in Matt's life where he gives up being a vigilante, of course. We've seen it done numerous times in superhero media, but I think a bigger reason for it is because this show is a soft reboot. In many ways, Marvel will want this show to stand out on its own, and Charlie Cox has said that it is considered a separate thing rather than a fourth season to the Netflix series. Well, in order to ensure that it feels different without losing the tone we know to be associated with Daredevil, you would try new things, take new liberties, and shake things up. Killing off Foggy, a central anchor in Matt's life and morals, would completely take the plot and characters by storm. Right away, this could show that, yeah, this isn't the Daredevil show you knew. Big characters are already being killed in the first episode. Surprise the audience. Catch them off guard. Normally you expect any major deaths to be in season finales or towards the end of a season, but imagine them doing it right at the beginning. It would also set a tone that reminds us of how dark and gritty Daredevil is supposed to be. As the last multi-episode show he was in, well, he was cracking typical MCU humor jokes, had not so great dialogue, and was tonally different overall. Bring us back to basics while also reinventing the character and the world around him to provide something fresh. And unfortunately, that's why Karen and Foggy will have to go. Since we know Daredevil Born Again is getting a season 2, which is in production as I record this, I really hope we start off strong in seeing the Devil of Hell's Kitchen come back, better than ever I'd assume. Muse is looking like he'll shape up to be a super interesting villain, and I'm quite invested in the Mayor Fisk storyline. I do think Bullseye will be written out in one of the early episodes. Whether Matt puts a severe beating on him, he dies, or is imprisoned, I think we'll see more of a focus on Muse and other new characters like White Tiger. With that, I want to hear what you think about all of this. Do you think Foggy and or Karen will die? If so, how? And let me know if you think this show will be just as good as the Netflix series or even better in the comments below. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video and subscribe for much more Daredevil and MCU content. Thanks everyone for watching, stay safe, and have a great day.